What's up, you guys? My name is Nico, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about the 5 things that I look out for before buying into a stock. So doing a stock analysis is something that's pretty time consuming, and before I dive deep into a company and do that research, I kind of do a quick scan to see if there are any big red flags that jump at me. This way, I save time. I got these 5 things from the book The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. Highly suggest the book to anybody that takes investing seriously. It's the second book I ever read on investing and by far the most useful book. With that being said, let's get started. All right, so for the first criteria, that is the most obvious one, but it is an important one, and I'm sure you guys already know it, is that you want the business to have a positive equity. And if you don't know what the equity of a business is, it's simply the total assets minus the total liabilities. Clearly, you want this number to be positive. So it is a red flag if it's negative, and especially if it's been negative for many consecutive years, that's a big red flag. Criteria number 2 is that you want to see a positive number for the cash flow from operating activities. So companies are required to fill out 3 financial statements, which include the cash flow statement, the income statement, and the balance sheet. The cash flow from operations is an important component of the cash flow statement. It's simply the money that comes from the company from the actual products and services that it provides. So if you have a negative cash flow from operating activities, that means that the company is using more money than it is making. So if this number is negative for many consecutive years, or even worse, if it's negative and it becomes even more negative throughout the years, that is a big red flag. And this leads me to the third criteria, which Benjamin Graham calls OPM. You don't want to invest in a company that heavily relies on OPM or other people's money. An easy way to tell if a company heavily relies on other people's money is if you see a positive number on the cash flow statement for cash from financing activities for many years in a row, and you also see a negative number for the cash flow from operating activities many years in a row. So cash flow from financing activities includes the acquisition of debt and the issuing of stock, which both are other people's money. And it's not a bad thing if this is a positive number, but if this is positive for many years and the operating activities is negative for many years, that means that that company isn't staying afloat because of its actual operations and the products and services, that it provides, but it's actually staying afloat and running because of this outside source of money. And I wanted to invest in a company that is able to hold itself up without being super reliant on these, other people's money. All right, so whatever company you want to search and look at the financial statements for, you can just Google the name of the company and then Yahoo Finance, which I've already done right here. I'm going to be using Uber as an example, just because Uber's a pretty good example. And then you're going to click here. Uber's a pretty good example of a poor cash flow statement. And so it's going to take you to the summaries page. You're going to click on financials. And as you can see here where it says show, you're going to have all 3 financial statements, which includes the income statement, the balance sheet, and the cash flow statement. So we're interested in the cash flow statement right now, so we're going to click on that. Everything is collapsed. If you want to look at more details, you can hit the expand all button, but we're not going to worry about that right now, so we're going to collapse it. And you can see here you got years 2016 all the way to 2019. The TTM is just the trailing 12 months, which we're not going to worry about right now for simplicity's sake. We're just going to look at 2016 to 2019. So if we look at the top line where it says cash flow from operating activities, also these numbers are in thousands as it says up here. So this is actually $2.9 billion instead of 2.9 million. So anyway, looking at cash flow from operating activities in 2016, we had negative $2.9 billion. Then negative 1.4 billion, then negative 1.5 billion, and finally in 2019 we had negative 4.3 billion. So this kind of meets that red flag criteria of having consecutive years in a row negative for cash flow operating activities. And not only that, but it looks like although it got slightly better for these 2 years, it went ahead and got quite a bit worse in 2019. So this fits the criteria number 2. And then for criteria 3, to see if this company strongly relies on OPM, you can see this line right here says cash flow from financing activities. Starting in 2016 and going across all the way to 2019, you see that these are very positive numbers. So while the cash flow from operating activities is all negative, cash flow from financing activities is all positive. So you can see that this company is heavily reliant on other people's money. So it also fits the criteria of number 3 for that, big red flag. And the fourth criteria is something that Benjamin Graham calls the serial acquirer company. And a serial acquirer is just a company that acquires a lot of other businesses. And it's not necessarily a bad thing for a company to buy stock or buy other companies, especially if it's growing. It can actually be a good thing. But if a company is buying many other companies every year and is actually putting more money into other companies than it is into itself, that's when it becomes a problem, and that's when it is a red flag. Why would I invest in a company if that company is investing most of its money in other companies? And the fifth and last criteria is you don't want to see major sell-offs from many executives in that company. So executives such as the COO, the CEO, and the CFO, and all the other important C's, you don't want to see massive sell-offs from multiple different important people in that company. How are you going to be a partner of somebody if they are trying to sell all the shares while you're trying to buy them? A way you can figure this out is that these executives and important people in management are required to fill out something called a Form 4. So anytime they buy a stock or sell stock or exercise any type of option, they have to report it, fill out a Form 4, and turn it into the SEC within 2 days of the transaction. Form 4s are available for the public, so it's something that you can check out. If you go to sec.gov, you can find each company's Form 4s, and you can see what these high up people in those companies are doing. If you see a random small sells of shares from different executives, that's not a big deal. But if you see massive sell-offs, that's when it's a red flag. Anyway, guys, that's it for my video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Just remember that these 5 criteria is not enough to purchase into a company and buy stock of a company. It's just an easy way to see if a company has big red flags. Just a quick, glance at it. So if y'all enjoyed it, hit the like button, and see you guys on my next investing video.